Welcome to Comfort Habit number 2. Sorry, this will be my final video. And this video will come on the tail end of the Black Lives Matter, George Floyd death and funeral today, and kinds of other things that we need to get a hold of. I always tell people that we need to take a knee to racism. And by that, I mean we can take a knee like Colin Kaepernick, or we can take a knee to racism face. So as of his death, as I said in the other video, there has been a few more shootings of people of color, male and female, and they mentioned that also at the funeral today. And I'm gonna tell you right now, we we can do better as people. And the other thing, when it comes to people of color, and I made this please comply video. When I was younger, after the Rodney King beating, and I was old enough to drive by the time this happened, you know, I was taught very well what to do in the situation. Eyes forward, hands on the steering wheel, cut off the car, respectfully do everything they say. And I don't do drugs, so if they search the car, they're not going to find anything. And if they find anything, then they planted it there because I've never done drugs a day in my damn life. Maybe a little alcohol, but I'm not stupid enough to leave alcohol bottles in my car, which some people actually are stupid enough to leave alcohol bottles in the car. I would like to tell all you young people of color and of non-color, this video is not about white privilege. This video is about right and wrong and racism. And the thing about this is that, a lot of people don't think racism exists because it doesn't affect them directly. When racism affects you directly, that's when it becomes an existing event in your life. When racism has affected you all your life, it becomes an existing event in your life. Now, just because you are black doesn't mean you've always faced racism. Me being mixed, I face a lot of racism from all three sides. But I have met some black people who have never known what the hell racism was because of how they were grown up or where they were brought up. And I've met some white people who've never known what racism was. I've met some Asians who've never known what racism is. And the reason that is because your environment kind of tells a story. If you come from good people, whether they are black, white, or Asian, and you have money and you live in high society, you don't have time to be racist because you're too busy making money, while the lower level people that are the same color as you are going through all the racist qualms. Which, until you hit a certain area in the world, or you go to a certain spot where normally people don't go, you who look like you, then you discover, damn, I'm black. I want to talk on that because of Clayton Bigsby from the Dave Chappelle Show. See, Dave Chappelle, we must be on the same wavelength because I've never had the money to do what Dave has done. And I'm going to get back on subject, don't worry. Dave Chappelle had made a thing about Clayton Bigsby, who was a black man, who was blind, who was leading the Ku Klux Klan. And all my life, I've said this, and I've never thought about it until he did it. And I said, I've always said that nobody hates black people more than black people, except for racist white people. And I said, I bet that the man that's running the Ku Klux Klan is probably secretly a black man who hates black people. He's like an Uncle Ruckus from the Boondocks, and he don't like black people, so he's started the Klan, and no one ever knew except for like a choice few good old boys. They're the only ones who ever knew he was black. And then when he died, someone else took his spot so that he would be like the Grand Wizard forever. And he gave them all the notes and stuff. And then along came Dave Chappelle with Clayton Bigsby, and heads started exploding. Someone made that reference to Miss Owens in one of the articles that is no longer available on Top Buzz thing. But I thought about that shit for years, and I thought, if I had the money to do that, I would have done that, but I didn't. And I thank Dave Chappelle for Clayton Bigsby. Now back on the topic at hand. When racism affects you directly, whether you are black, white, or other, which means you're Asian, because there's only 3 humanoid species on the planet, actually. For those who don't know, you can go talk to Tanya TKO, who's like Negroid, because that's what it's called. It's Carcass, not carcass, but carcass. God damn it! There's the scientific word for white people, and then there's Negroid, and then there's Mongoloid, which I happen to be part of all three. So I don't have the right to be a racist. I can't speak this stuff very well because science is not my strong suit. But I was also taught this by a guy that I used to work at Browns with, and I was like, yeah, I know, but so if you're Mongoloid, that means you fall in the aspect from any Native American slash Asian company, and that means also if you're Hispanic, you're more closer to Mongoloid than you are to the scientific word for white people. All right. So that being said, when racism slaps you in the face on a daily basis, that's when racism is a factor. When racism doesn't really affect you directly, that's when you are blind to the racism. And the thing about that is, most of us just don't want to believe that it exists, which is why this big explosion that has happened with the death of Mr. Floyd has carried on for like almost 2 weeks. This is why there's protesting in the streets. This is why people are going the fuck off. And the thing with that is, they're well within their rights to go off, but they should be going off peacefully. I want to end this on a good note. For all you young people, in this guy's death, it has not changed much of anything, and I want you to comply. Why do I want you to comply? Because I don't want you to die. So if you comply, you won't die. Keep that in your synapses. I watched a video today of a young man who ran a stop sign and drove to his grandma's house before he laid on the ground for the cops to take him. His 90-year-old grandmother got knocked to the ground also. And yes, they were black people. First and foremost, running a stop sign is bad. I'm not defending the cops for going after him. He ran the stop sign. The cop told him that he ran the stop sign and they weren't going anywhere. And he had to comply. He laid on the ground eventually, and he did comply, but his grandmother basically took a bullet for him by getting knocked down to protect him because of all the fear of cops killing black people. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm going to piss off a lot of black people. He had his pants sagging. Right then and there, that's an indicator of rebellion. I have never, ever had sagging pants intentionally. I have a belt and I wear it. My pants generally fit me perfectly except for like maybe 3 or 4 pairs, which is why I have a belt. But also in the military, even if your pants fit you fair, the belt was part of your uniform, and you better not be caught not wearing it, or you're gonna get the whole goddamn platoon smoked. So you don't want that happening. Now, I learned, at a young age that if you don't comply, you will die. And it's one of the things that has stuck with me every day of my life, from my teens to my 40s, to always comply. Because here's the thing. If once you get fingerprinted and once they run everything on you, it's going to get sorted out. It's going to get sorted out. So please comply. Now, here's the thing. And I'm going to say this again. I'm going to piss off a lot of fucking people of color, specifically black people. If you've been in trouble for the majority of your life and you're on papers and the 3-strike rule is no longer in play, then you may have some problems. If the 3-strike rule is still in play and you're on your 3rd strike, this is no one's fault but yours. And I'm not saying that to be an asshole, I'm not saying that to be a dick. I'm just saying that if you'd stay out of trouble, you wouldn't have the cops chasing you in the first place. But the thing with the youth of black America is everybody wants to be a thug. Everybody wants to be anything but the hero. And this is why we have these problems. Am I saying that Mr. Floyd was trying to be a thug? No. I don't even know why the hell they arrested him, to be honest. I have not read the articles of why they arrested him. I don't know. I'm also not going to follow Miss Candace Owens, who has done everything she can to, whatever's going on in her wheels, it's just not working for me. But I will say this. All of my friends in my youth except for a couple, all black friends, by the way, have done a stint in juvie. Now, I had some friends that's never been to juvie that are also black. I'm not going to name them. I'm not going to name the ones that went to juvie. But the ones that went to juvie were repeat offenders. The ones who didn't go to juvie, though their dads weren't in their life, they had good moms. Their moms kept them straight. And one of my best friend's moms was a school teacher. Another one of my best friend's mom was not a school teacher. I forgot what she did, but she did work at um a resort, so to speak. I don't really know what to call it, but it's Boar's Head, so I don't know if it's a hotel or if it's a resort. They got a lot of they work. She worked at a power club. Yeah, basically a power club for wealthy and more like white people. I don't know what she did there, but I know she worked there. And he's never been in trouble with the law while we were in middle school and high school. In high school, he had moved to the country, so I don't know how his high school life turned out. I miss him. Um, with the other friend from Smithfield, whose mom was a school teacher, she was very strict and she kept him on a short leash and she did right by him. And then another friend and a couple of my white friends, they've never gotten in any trouble and they've stayed out of trouble. One of my white friends' dad was a fucking lawyer, so he wasn't about to get in any trouble. But even if he did, he had a good lawyer for a father and he was going to be in great shape. But for me, I was taught from an early age that when you do wrong, you get your ass beat. Got a lot of them. Did a lot of wrong. But I learned that when you got older and you had to deal with the law does not play. While a lot of my friends were out doing dumb stuff and getting arrested when we lived in the projects, I was in the backyard. I was in the backyard doing kung fu. So kung fu saved my life. Well, technically, I was doing karate at the time, but martial arts saved my life. And I recommended it to everybody. Learn martial arts. Man, fuck you. You ain't nothing. Fuck you. You ain't shit. And those guys that did that, fuck you, you ain't shit, you ain't nothing, were the same guys later in life would be like, man, I should have been more like you. I should have found something to give my life purpose. My dad wasn't around, but I did this shit for attention or whatever. Well, here's a newsflash for you. My dad wasn't around either. But my dad came and got me every summer except for 2 summers. And I will explain that as I end this. The 2 summers that my father didn't get me. I got bit by a horse because he didn't get me. And I had to go stay in Lynchburg, my old field. And they didn't teach me how to feed the horse properly. So every time I see, think, or talk about a horse, my thumb and my middle finger burn. And I can still see Charlie picking me up by my little hand, taking a good bite out of my thumb and my middle finger. I'm lucky I still have them. And me screaming like a little girl and getting dropped. And then my cousin shoving sugar cubes down my mouth. And the other time, I think I was either turning 12 or turning 13. And my dad couldn't get me because he had lost his job again. So the 2 times that my father couldn't get me, he had legal excuses. He did not have a job. He could not feed me. He could not take care of me. But my mom found a place for me to go, painful as that summer when I was 7 was. But I also started learning martial arts not too long in between that. So when I was forced to street fight, once the summer was over and the weekends began where I had to fight people, I had my advantage and I learned that, pain is not a good thing. Well, the bottom line is, I was taught that if you comply, you will not die. And I tell that to everybody. So, please, please, if you are a man or a woman, comply. Also, for the sake of women, if you're riding down the road and the police try to pull you over and it's dark, I'm going to regret saying this, but we had a thing here in Charlottesville where a fake cop lured a girl into a trap. I think it was the Reynolds case. I might be getting them mixed up, but I'm pretty sure it was either Reynolds or Shorewater. I can't remember the girl's name, but she died because somebody was pretending to be a cop or whatever. I don't have the whole story in my head correctly. Concussions will do that to you. But if you are a young lady and you're getting pulled over on a dark street, you keep going, until you hit a well lit area. Hit a well lit area like a Sheets or something like that, then you pull over. That way, if the cop isn't real, you'll have witnesses. Now, if the cop is real, you'll still have witnesses and you'll be safe, and you will tell the cop these exact words: I didn't know if you were a real cop, and it was dark out here, and I was afraid for my life, and I figured if I pulled over in the dark and you weren't a real cop, I would probably die. If I pulled over and you were a real cop, you would probably beat me for running. So I came to a place where there's a fuck ton of light and witnesses, so that if I don't make it home from jail tonight, all of these witnesses will know that I was here. And that would work for a man too, but it's more than likely if you're a man of color, you're probably going to get beat up. So therefore, do the same thing. Go into a well-lit area when you pull over. It's like, nah, I'm going to pull over where there is fucking light and witnesses, because I want to make it home. They want to make it home. We all want to make it home. But for the sake of arguments, please comply. This is Kung Fu Havoc number 2. Be seeing